Lieutenant Kate Morrison's boots made sharp clicking sounds as she walked onto the GDC Valiant. The huge ship's crew bay went completely quiet. Every alien warrior in the room stopped what they were doing and stared at her. She could feel dozens of eyes watching her every move. The silence felt heavy and uncomfortable. Kate had expected this reaction, but experiencing it was different. These weren't just any soldiers. They were Captain Thorne's elite unit, the best fighters in the Galactic Defense Corps. And right now, they all looked like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. "You've got to be kidding me," growled Corvus, a massive Krillian warrior who stood nearly 9 feet tall. His black scales caught the light like polished metal armor. When he laughed, his jaw made clicking sounds that sent chills down Kate's spine. "That tiny thing is supposed to be our new handler." Velox, the unit's Vorthan hunter, shifted her weight, and her razor-sharp claws scraped against the metal floor. The sound was like nails on a chalkboard. "Look at her," she said with disgust. "The humans must be desperate if they're sending us children to do a warrior's job. Even my youngest offspring shows more strength than this creature." Kate stood perfectly still and kept her face blank. She had learned long ago not to react when people underestimated her. At 5 feet 6 inches tall, with reddish-brown hair, pulled back in a neat ponytail, she knew she didn't look impressive next to these alien giants. But she also knew that looks could be very deceiving. More whispers started spreading through the crowd. Kate caught bits and pieces of different alien languages, but the tone was the same in every one: doubt, amusement, and pity. Some of the warriors were actually placing bets on how quickly she would quit and ask for a transfer back to Earth. Captain Thorne pushed through the crowd, and Kate's attention snapped to him immediately. The old soldier looked like he had been through dozens of battles. Half of his face had been replaced with cybernetic parts after some terrible injury. His mechanical eye glowed red as it focused on her, and she could hear tiny motors whirring as it adjusted. "Morrison," he said, in a voice that sounded like gravel, "you're being assigned to Asset Designation Apex 7. He held up a tablet and scrolled through information. "Containment Level 9, that's the deepest, most secure part of this ship." Kate nodded and waited for more details. She noticed that the crew bay had gone quiet again. Everyone was listening to find out what kind of assignment the human would get. The previous handlers assigned to this asset didn't last very long. Thorne continued. He checked his records again. Average time before they requested immediate transfer was 4 hours, 12 minutes, and 18 seconds. The alien warriors burst into laughter. The sound was terrible, a mixture of clicks, hisses, roars, and harmonic tones that somehow all expressed the same message. They thought Kate would fail even faster than the others. A few of the aliens started making new bets. Kate heard someone say she wouldn't last 2 hours. Another voice said she'd be begging for transfer within 1 hour. The most optimistic bet she heard was 3 hours, and even that warrior sounded doubtful. "Sir," Kate said, raising her voice slightly to be heard over the noise, "what exactly is Apex 7? The laughter stopped immediately. Captain Thorne's organic eye studied her face carefully, probably looking for signs of fear. His mechanical eye continued to whir and click as it analyzed her. "Apex 7 is a Devourer-class bioweapon," he explained slowly. "We captured it 3 months ago during a raid on Kepler Station. The intelligence reports say it's extremely smart, completely aggressive, and absolutely lethal to anyone who gets too close." He paused and looked around the room. "This creature has killed more enemy soldiers than everyone else in this unit combined. It's our most effective weapon when we can get it to cooperate, which isn't very often," added Corvus. His mandibles clicked again in amusement. "It's also killed 3 of our own handlers. Tore them apart before security could intervene." Kate felt a chill run down her spine, but she kept her expression calm. She had volunteered for this assignment, knowing it would be dangerous. The fact that it had killed other handlers wasn't exactly a surprise. but hearing it stated so casually was still unsettling. The creature is highly intelligent, Thorne continued. That makes it even more dangerous because it can think and plan. It's not just a mindless beast. It's a calculating predator that knows exactly how deadly it is. Some of the alien warriors nodded in agreement. A few shared stories about times they had seen the creature in action during previous missions. The stories were not encouraging. Kate took a deep breath and looked directly at Captain Thorne. When do I start working with it, sir? The question surprised everyone in the room. Most of them had expected her to ask for more details, request additional training, or maybe even try to back out of the assignment. Instead, she seemed ready to begin immediately. Captain Thorne's mechanical eye focused on her with renewed interest. Tomorrow at 0800 hours, he said. But Morrison, I want you to understand something. This isn't a normal assignment. Apex 7 isn't just dangerous, it's a killer. Are you absolutely sure you want to do this? Kate nodded firmly. Yes, sir, I'm ready. The crew bay erupted in laughter once again, but this time it sounded different. There was less amusement and more disbelief. These seasoned warriors couldn't understand why a small human would willingly walk into such obvious danger. The elevator moved downward through the ship, and Kate could feel her stomach drop with each level. The numbers on the display kept changing. Level 3, Level 4, Level 5. Each floor they passed had more security than the one before. First there were simple card readers, then hand scanners, then full body scans that made her stand still while blue lights swept over her. Davies, the nervous technician escorting her, kept looking at her sideways. His hands were shaking slightly as he held his access cards. Kate could tell he felt sorry for her, like he was walking someone to their execution. Lieutenant, are you absolutely sure about this? Davies asked for the third time. His voice cracked a little. I mean, we could start with some computer simulations. First get you used to how the creature behaves. Maybe watch some video footage of previous handlers before you actually meet it face to face. Kate kept her eyes on the elevator display. Level 8, Level 9, Level 10. I'll be fine, Davies. Really? But Davies wouldn't give up. It's just that, well, the last handler was a veteran with 15 years of experience handling dangerous assets. He lasted less than 4 hours before he requested an emergency transfer. Said he couldn't sleep at night knowing that thing was on the same ship. Level 11, Level 12. The elevator finally stopped with a soft ding. That sounded way too cheerful for where they were going. The final blast. Doors were massive, at least 3 feet thick, and made of some kind of super strong metal. When they opened, they made a loud hissing sound, like air escaping from a pressure chamber. The sound echoed through the corridor beyond, making everything feel even more ominous. Containment Level 9 looked like something from a nightmare. The hallway stretched out in front of them, lit by harsh white lights that made everything look cold and sterile. Along both walls were thick viewing windows that looked into holding cells. Most of the cells were empty, which somehow made things even more frightening. What had happened to the creatures that used to be kept here? Kate started walking slowly down the corridor. Her footsteps echoed loudly in the silence. Davies followed behind her, but she could tell he wanted to turn around and run. The only other sound was coming from the far end of the hallway, a constant scraping noise, like claws on metal, repeated over and over in a steady rhythm as they got closer to the end of the corridor. Kate could see that the last cell was different from the others. The walls were made of transparent aluminum that was 6 inches thick. Through the observation deck's speakers, she could hear the scraping sound more clearly now. Something large was pacing back and forth inside that cell, moving with mechanical precision, like a caged animal at the zoo. Kate reached the viewing window and looked inside. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. The creature was enormous, at least 12 feet tall, and built like a living weapon. Its body was covered in a hard, shell-like armor that looked black as midnight under the bright containment lights. It had 4 arms instead of 2, and each arm ended in claws that looked sharp enough to cut through steel. As it paced, those claws scraped against the walls, making the rhythmic sound she had been hearing. The worst part was its face. The creature had huge jaws filled with teeth like daggers, and acid was constantly dripping from its mouth onto the floor where it sizzled and steamed. Its eyes were like nothing Kate had ever seen, multiple surfaces that reflected light like black diamonds. Those eyes showed intelligence. This wasn't just a mindless beast. It was smart, and it knew exactly how dangerous it was. The moment Kate appeared at the window, the creature stopped pacing. Those terrible eyes locked onto her through the thick barrier. For what felt like forever, neither of them moved. Kate felt like the creature was studying her, trying to figure out what she was and whether she was a threat. Davies was practically hyperventilating behind her. "Maybe we should go back up and get some of the senior staff," he whispered. "I don't think you're supposed to be this close on your first day." But Kate ignored him. She spotted a small folding chair near the observation station and walked over to get it. The creature's eyes followed her every movement. She unfolded the chair and placed it directly in front of the viewing window, then sat down and made herself comfortable. The creature tilted its massive head to one side. The gesture looked almost curious, which was strange coming from something so terrifying. Tate took a deep breath and spoke in a quiet, calm voice. "Hello there. My name is Kate. I'm going to be spending some time with you, if that's okay." Her words were picked up by the audio system and carried into the creature's cell. The beast's head tilted the other way, like it was trying to understand what she had said. Above them, Kate could see faces pressed against reinforced observation windows. Her new squad mates had gathered to watch what they probably expected to be a disaster. She could see Corvus's massive form and the gleam of Vilox's claws as they positioned themselves for the best view. Davies was backing toward the elevator. "Lieutenant, I really think we should go. The safety protocols say that first contact should only happen with a full security team present." Kate didn't move from her chair. "It's all right, Davies. You can go back up if you want. I'm going to stay here for a while." The creature hadn't taken its eyes off her. It wasn't pacing anymore. Instead, it seemed to be waiting for something, though Kate had no idea what this was, just the beginning. But Kate already knew that everything everyone had told her about this creature might be wrong. Yes, it was dangerous and deadly, but there was something else there too, something that made her want to stay and learn more. 3 weeks had passed, and everything had changed. The alien warriors, who used to laugh at Kate, now watched her in confused silence. Nobody was making jokes anymore. Every single morning at exactly 7 o'clock, Kate would step out of the elevator, carrying the same folding chair and a metal coffee cup that steamed in the cold air of containment level 9. She had turned this daily routine into something that looked almost normal, even though nothing about the situation was normal at all. Kate would unfold her chair in the same spot, sit down, and start talking. At first, she talked about simple things, what she had for breakfast, how she slept, what the weather was like on the planets they visited. But as days passed, she began sharing more personal stories. "You know Rex," she said one morning. She had started calling the creature Rex during the 2nd week, though she never explained why she picked that name. "When I was little, my family had this amazing dog named Duke. He was a German shepherd with the most beautiful golden and black fur you've ever seen." The creature, which everyone still officially called Apex 7, had stopped its endless pacing on the 5th day. Kate noticed the change immediately, though she didn't make a big deal about it. By the 10th day, something even more interesting happened. When Kate arrived each morning, Rex would already be waiting near the viewing window, like he knew she was coming. "Duke was the smartest dog I ever met," Kate continued, sipping her coffee. "But when we first got him from the rescue shelter, he was terrified of everything. The people there told us he had been hurt by his previous owners. He wouldn't let anyone touch his food bowl, wouldn't come when called, and he hid under the kitchen table whenever someone raised their voice. Rex tilted his massive head as Kate spoke. His multifaceted eyes stayed focused on her face, and Kate was convinced he was actually listening to every word. His body language had changed too. The constant tension was gone. He no longer looked like he was ready to attack at any moment. Up in the observation deck, Kate's squad mates gathered every morning to watch what they had started calling the show. Their reactions had changed from amusement to bewilderment to something that looked almost like concern. "This is insane," Corvus growled to Vilox as they peered through the reinforced windows. "She's down there talking to that killing machine like it's some kind of household pet. Has she completely lost her mind?" Vilox flicked her tail in annoyance, a gesture that meant she was frustrated. "Humans," she said with disgust. "Their need to form emotional bonds with other creatures is a serious weakness. It's pathetic how primitive their instincts are." But Captain Thorne had a different opinion. He watched Kate's daily sessions with growing fascination. In 30 years of military service, he had seen dozens of different alien species and hundreds of dangerous creatures. He had never, ever seen a Devourer-class bioweapon stay calm for more than a few minutes at a time. These creatures were designed to be constantly agitated, always ready for violence. Yet Rex hadn't tried to break out of his cell even once since Kate started visiting. The maintenance reports showed that he had stopped trying to damage the walls, stopped testing the strength of the barriers, and stopped the aggressive displays that had terrified previous handlers. "It took us 4 months to get Duke to trust us," Kate told Rex on the 21st day. 4 months of patient waiting, of letting him come to us instead of forcing contact. But once he learned that we weren't going to hurt him, he became the most loyal companion our family ever had. Something had been building between Kate and Rex over these 3 weeks. The other crew members could sense it, even if they didn't understand it. There was a connection forming that nobody had thought possible. On that 21st day, Kate did something that made everyone in the observation deck hold their breath. She stood up from her chair and walked directly to the containment barrier. Rex immediately moved closer too, until only 6 inches of transparent aluminum separated them. "I know you can understand me," Kate said in a voice so soft that the audio pickups barely caught it. "And I know you're not just a weapon. You're a living creature with thoughts and feelings, aren't you? You're scared and angry, but you're alive and aware." Rex's mandibles clicked once. But instead of the threatening sound everyone was used to hearing, this click seemed different somehow. It sounded less aggressive, almost like he was trying to communicate. Kate slowly raised her hand and placed her palm flat against the barrier. Everyone watching expected Rex to react violently, to strike at the window or roar in rage. Instead, Rex hesitated for just a moment. Then he lifted one of his massive talons, the same claws that had killed 3 handlers, and gently pressed it against the other side of the barrier. His claw matched the position of Kate's hand perfectly, like they were trying to touch through the wall that separated them. In the observation deck above, every single alien warrior went completely silent. Corvus's mandibles hung open in shock. Vilox's claws had stopped scraping the floor. Even the normally chatty technicians seemed to have forgotten how to speak. Captain Thorne leaned forward, his mechanical eye worry as it focused on the scene below. In all his years of service, he had never seen anything like this. A human and a bioweapon, separated by barriers designed to prevent exactly this kind of connection, had somehow found a way to reach each other. Kate kept her hand pressed against the barrier for several long seconds. Rex didn't move either. For that brief moment, it looked like 2 intelligent beings recognizing each other as something more than enemies. The mission was supposed to be simple and boring. The GDC Valiant slowly approached an old mining station that had been abandoned for months. Captain Thorne's unit was just looking for signs that the enemy syndicate might be using the station as a hideout. It was the kind of routine scouting mission that experienced soldiers could do in their sleep. Kate and Rex stayed on the ship while the rest of the team prepared to board the station. This was normal procedure. The bioweapon was still considered too unpredictable for standard operations. Even though Kate had made incredible progress with him over the past month, everything changed in an instant. When the ship's alarm systems started screaming, 3 massive Syndicate assault cruisers suddenly appeared out of hyperspace, dropping into normal space like deadly shadows. These weren't small patrol ships. They were full-sized warships built for serious combat. The GDC Valiant was completely outnumbered and outgunned. All hands, battle stations. Captain Thorne's voice boomed through the ship's communication system, crackling with static from the enemy's jamming signals. We're cut off from the main fleet. All units prepare for fighting withdrawal. Pattern Delta. The ship shook violently as enemy weapons hit the hull. Kate could hear the groaning of metal being stressed beyond its limits, and the sound of smaller explosions as systems throughout the ship began failing. Emergency lights flashed red, and the artificial gravity fluctuated, making her stomach lurch. In the main hangar bay, Kate watched her squad mates getting ready for what looked like an impossible fight. Corvus was checking his massive plasma rifle, running diagnostics on its power cells with practiced efficiency. Velox was sharpening her already razor-sharp claws on a special stone, making them even deadlier. The unit's human strategist, a quiet man named Blake, was coordinating defensive positions, using his telepathic abilities to communicate with the alien crew members. Everyone moved with the calm efficiency of experienced warriors, but Kate could see the tension in their faces. They all knew the odds were terrible. 3 enemy ships against 1 meant they were facing at least 3 times as many soldiers, with better weapons and more resources. We need every available asset deployed for combat, Captain Thorne announced over the intercom. His mechanical eye was probably analyzing tactical data, while his organic eye watched for threats. Morrison, can that creature of yours be trusted in actual battle? Kate looked at the tactical display showing the enemy ships closing in fast. Red dots representing Syndicate forces were surrounding the single blue dot that was their ship. 3 odds, with the enemy getting closer every second. She had to make a decision that would have seemed impossible just 1 month ago. Rex and I are ready, sir, she said into her communicator. 20 minutes later, Kate found herself in the ship's lower cargo bay, watching something that should have been terrifying. Rex's containment cell was being opened for the first time since he had been captured 3 months ago. The massive blast door slid apart with a loud hissing sound, and Rex slowly emerged into the dim light of the cargo bay. The bioweapon unfolded to his full 12-foot height, his black armor gleaming under the emergency lighting. All around them, nervous technicians were backing away toward the exits. Some had their hands hovering over emergency alarm buttons, ready to call for help if Rex went berserk. "Easy, Rex," Kate said in a calm, quiet voice. "Just like we practiced, through the barrier." Over the past week, Kate had been working with Rex on basic commands and signals. She would hold up her hands in different positions, and Rex had learned to respond with specific movements. She had also taught him simple voice commands, though she wasn't sure how much he actually understood versus how much he was just responding to her tone. Now, with enemy boarding parties cutting through the ship's hull with plasma torches, Kate was about to find out if all that practice meant anything. "Rex, guard position," she said firmly. The bioweapon immediately moved to her left side, placing his massive body between Kate and the sealed blast door that led to the main corridor. His 4 arms were relaxed but ready, and his multifaceted eyes were focused on the door. The blast door exploded inward moments later. Syndicate soldiers in heavy combat armor poured through the opening, their weapons already firing, but Rex was ready for them, instead of the mindless, uncontrolled violence that everyone expected from a Devourer-class bioweapon. Rex moved with deadly precision. But more importantly, he followed Kate's commands exactly. "Rex, Advance pattern. 3, Kate called out, and Rex flowed forward in a specific attack sequence that she had developed during their training sessions. He moved to the right, struck with his upper arms, then pivoted left to avoid return fire. Rex, defensive hold, Kate shouted, and the creature immediately stopped mid-attack, waiting for her next instruction even though enemy soldiers were still shooting at him. Together, they moved through the ship's corridors like a perfectly coordinated team. Kate's human intelligence and tactical thinking guided Rex's devastating physical capabilities. She could see the battlefield from a strategic perspective and give Rex commands that maximized his effectiveness while minimizing risks. When enemy soldiers tried to flank them, Kate saw it coming and directed Rex to block their movement. When the Syndicate forces tried to retreat and regroup, Kate had Rex pursue them at exactly the right moment. It was like watching a deadly dance between two partners who understood each other perfectly. 20 minutes later, when Captain Thorne and the rest of the unit finally reached them, Kate and Rex were standing in a corridor surrounded by 15 dead Syndicate soldiers. Neither Kate nor Rex had been injured at all. The enemy forces lay scattered around them, taken down with surgical precision. Captain Thorne stared at the scene in complete amazement, his mechanical eye whirred as it recorded everything, probably trying to analyze what had happened. "How did you do this?" he asked. Kate reached up and gently scratched Rex behind what might have been an ear. The massive creature made a deep rumbling sound that almost sounded like a cat purring. If cats were 12 feet tall and covered in armor, turns out he just needed someone to listen to him, Kate said simply. The meeting room felt more like a courtroom than a military briefing. Kate sat at a long metal table, while some of the most important people in the galaxy stared at her with expressions ranging from amazement to disbelief. The debriefing had been going on for 6 straight hours, and Kate was exhausted. Admiral Patricia Vance had traveled all the way from Fleet Command headquarters just to be here. She was a legendary figure, a woman who had commanded fleets in dozens of battles and never lost a single engagement. Sitting around the table with her were xenobiologists who studied alien life forms, combat specialists who designed military tactics, and behavioral psychologists from at least 5 different species. "Let me make sure I understand what happened," Admiral Vance said, looking down at a tablet showing footage from the battle. Her voice was calm, but Kate could hear the underlying tension. A human recruit with no special training, no genetic modifications, and no cybernetic enhancements successfully formed a bond with a Devourer-class bioweapon and then commanded it effectively in active combat. Captain Thorne, who looked tired but proud, nodded firmly. "That's exactly right, Admiral. Lieutenant Morrison accomplished something that our best scientists said was theoretically impossible." Dr. Elizabeth Hayes, the chief xenobiologist for the entire Galactic Defense Corps, leaned forward in her chair. She had been studying Kate like she was a fascinating new species. "Lieutenant Morrison, I need to understand your background. What did you do before you joined the military?" Kate shifted uncomfortably under all the attention. "I studied animal behavior at Cambridge University, back on Earth, ma'am. I specialized in working with traumatized rescue animals, dogs, cats, horses, even some exotic animals that had been mistreated by their previous owners." "And how did you apply that knowledge to working with Apex 7? Kate thought carefully about her answer. Everyone in the room was hanging on her every word, and she knew that what she said might change how the entire military approached these creatures. "I treated Rex like what he actually is," she said finally. "He's a highly intelligent living being who had been captured, locked up, and probably tortured during his time in captivity. Instead of trying to force him to obey me through fear or dominance, I focused on building trust between us." The room went completely silent as everyone absorbed what she had said. The implications were staggering. If Kate was right, then everything they thought they knew about handling these bioweapons was wrong. Corvus, who had been brought in as a witness, spoke up reluctantly. The massive Krillian warrior looked uncomfortable, admitting what he was about to say. In the 3 months that the creature was held in containment, it never showed anything except pure rage. It attacked every handler who tried to work with it. But with Morrison, it became cooperative within just a few weeks. Admiral Vance studied the tactical recordings on her tablet again, watching footage of Kate and Rex working together during the battle. Dr. Hayes, how many Devourer-class bioweapons do we currently have in containment across all our facilities? 17 specimens, Admiral. All of them are considered far too dangerous for any kind of deployment. We've basically been keeping them as research subjects because nobody could figure out how to work with them safely. Admiral Vance looked up from her tablet with an expression that was part amazement and part calculation. Well, it looks like that's about to change. She turned to Kate. Lieutenant Morrison, how would you feel about developing and training a completely new kind of handler program? It seems like humans have a particular talent that we never recognized before. Kate glanced over at Rex, who was standing quietly in the corner of the room. The massive bioweapon should have been terrifying to everyone present, but instead, he seemed almost protective. His multifaceted eyes were constantly scanning the room, but not looking for targets. He was watching for any threats to Kate. What makes humans special isn't our physical strength or our intelligence, Kate said, thinking out loud. We're not the strongest species in the galaxy, and we're definitely not the smartest. But we evolved as pack animals who learned to cooperate with other species for survival. She paused, trying to find the right words to explain something that felt natural to her, but seemed revolutionary to everyone else. Humans don't just tame other animals, she continued. We form partnerships with them. For thousands of years, we've worked alongside dogs, horses, dolphins, and dozens of other species. We learned to communicate across the species barrier because our survival depended on it. Dr. Hayes was nodding excitedly now, her scientific mind putting the pieces together. While other intelligent species developed superior physical abilities or enhanced mental powers, humans developed empathy and cross-species communication as survival mechanisms. Admiral Vance was quiet for a long moment, processing everything she had heard. When she finally spoke, there was something like wonder in her voice. In a galaxy full of apex predators, humans became apex friends. 6 months later, everything had changed. The human handler corps had been established across the entire fleet, and Kate found herself promoted to commander. She was now responsible for training a new generation of soldiers in what military scientists had started calling the Morrison method. Kate traveled from base to base, teaching other humans how to work with bioweapons that had previously been considered impossible to control. Each success story followed the same basic pattern that Kate had discovered: patience instead of force, understanding instead of dominance, partnership instead of slavery. The 17 Devourer-class bioweapons that had been locked away as research subjects were gradually paired with human handlers. One by one, these terrifying creatures became something nobody had expected: loyal companions who fought alongside their human partners. But the program didn't stop there. As news spread throughout the galaxy, other species began bringing their own impossible creatures to human handlers. Bioweapons, mutated animals, even some artificially created life forms that had been written off as too dangerous to use. The galaxy's most feared creatures were no longer just weapons of mass destruction, sitting in containment cells, in human hands. They became willing allies in the fight against the forces that threatened all civilized life. And it all started because one small human looked at a monster and saw what everyone else had missed: a frightened, intelligent creature who just needed someone to care enough to listen. The Morrison method proved that sometimes the greatest weapon in the universe isn't superior firepower or advanced technology. Sometimes it's simply the ability to understand that even the most dangerous predator might just be looking for a friend.